Hello there, welcome to Blitz Transmissions. This is the Blitzcast number 78. I'm Tommy. Before we get into the content of this week's episode of the Blitzcast, as always, make sure to check out the laundry list of links that can be found in the description below. But before you do any of that, if you're watching on YouTube, or hey, if you're not watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to Blitz Transmissions on YouTube, because guess what? I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time, and that's where most of my content gets posted. If you'd like, you could also check out the links in the description below, as I already mentioned. If you're an ARC Trooper in the Patreon, you would have seen this Blitzcast episode early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do on YouTube, or you just want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion, for just 99 cents a month. It gives you access to exclusive badges, priority replies in my comment section. You get to vote on what I review next for the channel, just like the ARC Troopers in the Patreon do, and you get to check out all my reviews early on YouTube. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, like I don't think I have anything near me, haha! For example, these 3" by 3" die-cut Blitz Transmissions stickers, as well as other awesome merch, you can check out the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below. You can also find links to my Instagram, my Blitz Bounties Instagram. You could find my X, my TikTok. You could always email me at blitztransmissions@gmail.com. I'd also encourage you to check out our partners and not sponsors. Definitely check out my fellow members of the Syndicate, that being Sarlacc Digest and Shadownose Network. Check out their YouTube channels and their other social media. Links to both of their YouTube channels will be in the description below. Go support them and check out the Syndicate Discord. Make sure you check out CARBONITES as well. Shout out to CARBONITES, a great independent toy maker here in the galaxy far, far away. Check out their website, link in the description below, as well as the link to the Cube Squadron Kickstarter. If you are a fan of the Jazzwares Micro Galaxy Squadron line, or you're just looking for some really cool 1" scale dioramas that are set in a galaxy far, far away, inspired by the first movie, the one that started it all, then you could check out Cube Squadron. Once they hit 1,500 followers on Kickstarter, they will be revealing their 7th and final cube, and they will be pushing the project into the production phase. So make sure to go show them some support. And with that, I think I have talked about all of the big things I wanted to talk about. So everybody, hello! Maul Shadowlord is upon us, and because it's upon us, of course, I had to release this Blitzcast episode a day later than normal. Guys, this past week, I was getting absolutely crushed at work, and I just wasn't feeling up to it to record the episode, by the time it was supposed to come out. So I gave it an extra day, because that's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. If you get that reference, let me know. Since our last episode of the Blitzcast, we have had a couple different things going on. I believe that since our last episode was recorded, we did have a Blitz Bounties live stream here on the channel. I got to open up my latest pile of loot from Big Bad Toy Store, which had a ton of different figures and stuff from The Mandalorian and Grogu. You could check out my live unboxing of this right here, the Vintage Collection AT-RT and AT-RT Driver. Super, super cool set. Please, Hasbro, push out a Clone Wars repaint of this sometime in the near future. Sooner rather than later would be preferred, right? Other than that, we had a couple other reviews come out here on the channel. By the way, I hope everybody had a very happy Easter for those who celebrate either the, Christian or the commercial side of Easter. Maybe you celebrate both. There's nothing wrong with that, because I celebrate both. My family has always done that. So I made a little special post, as I do with most of the major holidays, for that. You can check out a couple reviews on the channel, one being my review of the Black Series First Edition Imperial Remnant AT-RT Driver and the Black Series Colonel Ward, both of those figures produced by Hasbro. So check out those reviews. You could also check out the latest episode of the Sarlacc Digest Toy Chest, the show that I am a co-host on over on the Sarlacc Digest YouTube channel. This past week we talked about some controversial, questionable maybe, reveals from Hasbro's The Black Series line, as well as the potential for more characters from The Mandalorian and Grogu coming out in the Black Series and the Vintage Collection and such after the release of the movie in May. And then, of course, you could also check out my... brain fart. You can also check out my first impressions video that I put out a day or two after the release of Maul Shadowlord. So we have several projects still, even though it was a little bit of a lighter week compared to the week, the couple weeks prior, especially us coming off the heels of March Madness, Order 66 edition for the Black Series. We had a good time. I had a good time with all this stuff. So, also check out the 2 new cases of Carbonites that just dropped as of today, as of recording this. I did place the links to purchase both of the new cases following orders and Grand Army cover-up in the Blitz Transmissions Discord and the Syndicate Discord. You can find the links to purchase those new cases there. Been loving the representation of characters featuring designs inspired by the Clone Wars from our friends over at Carbonites. And if you're looking for short-form news update videos, you can also find all that on Blitz Transmissions with TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. I've got it all going on. And I have a really, really cool new series, that weekly series that's going to be starting as of this coming week. So be ready. It's a very ambitious idea. I'm probably in way over my head with this one, as I usually am, but, if there's one thing I've proven time and time again, it's that I can overcome that hardship, and I can really, push myself to the limits in a good way, right? And create a cool product. So I've got a really cool idea. It's very different. Nobody else in the niche is really doing it. So I'm excited about it. I've been spending a lot of time brainstorming it. So you'll see it this coming Friday, I think. In the next, probably what is that? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Yeah, 5 days. 5 days from today, as of this video coming out. 5 days from today. Very, very excited. Let's just cut to the chase. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk some Maul Shadowlord, guys. So Maul Shadowlord came out, and, I watched it with my beautiful fiance, Jennifer. And I sat there and we digested the show, and I won't lie, I kind of felt like some people were hyping it up a little too much. I kind of watched it and I was like, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes? Really? I feel like I've watched other Star Wars that I've enjoyed more. But then I sat and thought about it, and I was like, there really wasn't anything that I disliked from the first couple episodes of Maul Shadowlord. It really wasn't. The very, very strong start. And let me preface by saying spoilers. Let me first say spoilers for the first 2 episodes of season 1 of Maul Shadowlord. If you are watching this and somehow you didn't think that there were going to be spoilers, the episodes have been out for almost a week at this point. You can watch this Blitzcast episode after you watch Maul Shadowlord episodes 1 and 2 of season 1. Let's get into the discussion. So I have to say, a couple overall statements that I hope continue as the series progresses throughout its remainder of its first season episodes. One thing, the animation is outrageously cool. That's something that I've already noticed and commented on leading up to the show's release. But wow, dude, I remember watching the Clone Wars Season 7 back in 2020 and thinking, this is a massive upgrade over, what we saw in the Clone Wars Season 6 with the Lost missions back in 2013. And I was like, it can't get any better than this. And then I remember watching the premiere episode of The Bad Batch Season 1 and being like, somehow they made it look better. I really don't see how they could upgrade it from here. And then I watched a lot of the Tales of series, and the moment that really pops out to me is the opening episode of Tales of the Empire, on that sequence on Dathomir where General Grievous is just, dicing up Night Sisters. That was where I was like, wow, they did it again. They leveled it up again. And here I am saying it, with Maul Shadowlord yet again. It's a little different, but the baseline for the animation style is the Clone Wars animation style. And that is just, it is just crazy to me how they continue to improve and develop this animation style. It's so incredibly impressive, and I will never not be amazed by it. And of course, I am a little biased too, because it is, my favorite thing in Star Wars is the Clone Wars. So I think, obviously I have a little bias there, but I think for good reason, because the animation style, it was revolutionary for the time, and it completely changed. What's going on here? Wait, hang on, guys. No. Hello? Can you guys still hear me? I had this weird pop-up on my computer just now that I've never had before. That was weird. Anyway, I think it was some stupid update on my computer. Hopefully the audio is still here for the rest of the episode, and we won't have to use the crappy camera audio. I can see the audio level still moving, so we should be good. Anyway, I really also have, I just can tell that there is a sense of direction with Maul Shadow Lord, that you can tell the whole thing was thought out before they even started putting the episodes together. I feel like that's been something that's frustrated me about particularly the live action, Disney Plus Star Wars projects over the course of like the last 5 or so years. They've had good ideas. Like on paper, it's a good concept, but in execution, there's a lot that they're missing, and it's because they're rushing to meet these very quick deadlines and these quick turnovers on these shows. And that was when Disney was really trying to make Disney Plus their cash cow, and I think they've realized that that's just not a thing that they can do. They can't keep the subscription numbers up, because the problem is, now the market with the streaming services is oversaturated. Everybody has a streaming service. You've got, just with Disney, you've got Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, and you can put them all together. But then there's like HBO Max, and there's Paramount Plus, and there's Netflix still, and there's there's still people that pay for cable. They're mostly old people, but there's still people that pay for cable, and I feel like there's Peacock, there's Poopcock, there's all these different streaming services, and they all, your money is just getting more and more divided, and people have to make decisions, and the problem that I think Disney ran into was they were pushing their IPs to make all these series and keep doing this turnover, and it was, the fandoms were suffering, because half the fandom can't even keep up with, the oversaturation of content. And then you have the passionate fandom getting upset about the lack of quality control. And, the projects are oftentimes diluting the franchises that we love so much. So, I kind of fell into both camps there. I had to dip out of Marvel. I think Hawkeye was the last series that, it was either Hawkeye or Moon Knight was the last Disney Plus series that I was like keeping up with, watching all of them. And after that, I was like, I can't do Star Wars and Marvel anymore, as far as like, keeping up with all the series and everything. I chose obviously to stick with Star Wars, because I was way more invested in Star Wars at that point in my life. But then on the flip side with Star Wars, you had like Obi-Wan Kenobi had a lot of things that frustrated fans. You had like the Book of Boba Fett, as The Mandalorian progressed, there was stuff that and while I don't agree with all the frustrations that some other fans have, like it still is, frustrations, and there's still things that people talk about. And I think that, you can clearly tell with Maul Shadow Lord, there's a sense of direction, and they're taking their time to tell you the story. I think that's another thing I really like about the series, is that they're not just spoon-feeding you the plot and the storylines. It's just letting itself tell the story. And if there's going to be a mystery about something, then it just is a mystery. And maybe we'll get some, it's a foreshadowing. We'll get clued in on this plot point or this, thing later. That, I think, is a great part of this series so far. Let's get into it. Hello. We're doing some great things with this series. For one, this is the first Star Wars series in a long time that I've sat there and been watching it going, I'm going to need that guy as an action figure. I'm going to need that guy as an action figure. You, and you. I'm going to need you as action figures as well. Really, the collector in me was just coming out, and I've never had such a strong want, like, oh, those need to get made as action figures. Obviously, when it comes to like clone troopers, that's different. 'Cause, like that's just I'm cloner brain rot in me, but. Like, there were so many characters with very unique designs. Like, for one, obviously, Rook Cast already coming out in the Black Series. I have her on pre-order. Got to get her in the Vintage Collection. The Mandalorians that are in all black. Oh, dude, those outfits are sick. The two Knight brothers, Icarus, and then I found out the other one's name is Scorn. Those guys are awesome. I love Maul's, like, droid companion we've got going on. That dude is cool too. I just love these different, very unique designs. The Jedi Master, oh, his name is Eco Dai something. It's like a hyphenated 3-part name. Eco Dai something. He's literally, I was watching some behind the scenes stuff on Maul Shadow Lord. They've been doing a good job of posting that on social media too. I think that's something that I miss from, like, you'd watch the Clone Wars on Cartoon Network, and then eventually, like, they would have the whole season come out on a DVD set. You buy the DVD set, and there would be, like, behind the scenes extras for every single episode, almost every single episode, and it would be like, just 5 or 10 minutes of just the creators talking about different aspects of the episodes, and maybe a character that they introduced or a story beat or something like that. And I got that same vibe, like, watching those behind the scenes things they were putting on social media after the first couple episodes of Maul Shadow Lord. That was really fun. But part of that was that they were referring to Eco as Dino Jedi before they even gave him a name. He was Dino Jedi. I love that. Also, particularly Vario, the little Aline in the mech suit. Oh, dude, give me him as an action figure. That'd be sick. Demas, I would take him, but I don't really care as much for Demas, the Kingpin alien. Oh, that's gonna kill me. I don't remember. It's the same species as Reese, but I can't think of its name right now. But yeah, he super cool characters, and the characters have little ticks and little twitches to them that I love too. And there's so much like good intentions with a lot of your your good guys, quote unquote, in this story, that they have to make difficult decisions that compromise morality, compromise your ethics. And there's a lot of, like, underlying motivations and, a lot of underlying motive to what they're doing and, how they're doing it. Very clearly, I like that there's a lot. I like that there's multiple things going on at once, and it's not just one linear plot line or conflict to follow. One thing I love as well, I did mention this in my first impressions video, is that this series is focused. Everything revolves around the titular character, that being Maul. That was a complaint that I had about Obi-Wan Kenobi and about the Book of Boba Fett in particular, was that you would have large chunks of those series, and those being limited series, large chunks of those series being dedicated to characters that were not the titular character. Everything going on, if you're naming a show after a character, in my opinion, everything going on should be around that titular character. And I get that with Maul Shadow Lord. I didn't get that with Obi-Wan Kenobi or the Book of Boba Fett. And I think a lot of people would like those two series a lot more if they had done what Maul Shadow Lord is doing. And that is where the beauty of Sam Witwer and Dave Filoni being the two head creatives on this project, they know that. They're fans themselves. They know what they being fans themselves know what fans want to see. So it's a different mindset completely than just the corporate, oh yeah, the focus group said that people like this. No, these guys know what Star Wars fans like. And when you get Star Wars fans excited, then people are going to start just naturally gravitating toward your project. But yeah, I love that we're on this planet Janix, like this dark underworld, reminds me a lot of like a big industrial city, American city vibes. Reminds me a lot of New York City, to be honest with you, with like the big skylines, the dirty slum streets and things like that. Reminds me a lot of like 1930s, 1940s New York City. You've got like your organized crime, and you've got Maul. So what I love is that right from the get-go, nothing is as it seems. You've got, this very, very seemingly, it's like, okay, well, Maul is, just, wreaking havoc on this planet of Janix. He has his people do this bank heist, and they take out a bunch of police in the midst of, this heist. And you kind of think, okay, that's a pretty straightforward plot. Well, no, it comes out that it's Demas's, one of the local gang leaders, bank that he, that's where he keeps his stash. Maul stole from him and stages it so that Demas will think that it's his main rival, Vario. Demas and Vario go at it, and then, Demas thinks that Vario betrayed their truce. Vario ends up having to kill Demas, and then Maul's able to step in and just clean up the scraps after these two local gangs have this fight. And there's already monkey wrenches being thrown into it because, and as I'm talking about it, I'm like, it's very complex, but everything connects and ties together. And like, as I'm talking about it, it all makes sense because you have then this local police force where the main guy that we're following is, Lawson. And he clearly has been around for a while with this local police department, and he's familiar with the local gangs, but he starts to catch wind of the fact that there's this Maul guy, Vario, terrified of him. Everyone that mentions his name, he's known as the Shadow. Nobody, most people don't even know his name. People are very fearful of this guy, and Lawson kind of, I think, is denying the fact that he's in over his head with this one. And, you got Two Boots, his droid, kind of deputy, I would call him, kind of calling out to him like, well, we need to contact the Empire. On paper, according to policy, if, once we've identified that this guy this Maul guy, we need to contact the Empire. Lawson wants to handle it within the department because he doesn't want the Empire coming in and doing what the Empire does. Once the Empire shows up, they're not going to leave, especially in a situation like you've got someone like Maul who can be coordinated and can be smart. He's a Force sensitive. He's extremely powerful in the dark side of the Force. I mean, there were multiple times in the Clone Wars where he was able to build himself up a pretty, significant military force. And I mean, they were able to take over the entire planet of Mandalore. So that was a big deal, and I think that it's very cool that there's more at play, because what's happening is you have the threat of Maul, which is already more than Lawson, in the police force can handle, especially when Maul and his goons break into the police station to get Vario, and then they end up getting Devin Azara. Dude, there's so much to talk about just in these first couple episodes, and it's kind of funny. I went from like, again, my initial impression after watching the 2 episodes, like that was pretty good, to now I'm like, as I'm getting into the weeds talking about it, I'm realizing how complex it all is, and I'm like, this is a really, really great show. It's, when you have, it seems like it, at face value, it seemed like it's completely out of control that Maul was able to break into the police station, kill a ton of your officers, whether it was destroy a bunch of your police droids, and leave with 2 of your prisoners. That is a big deal in and of itself, but for all that to happen and to still say, I would rather be dealing with this than bring the Empire in, when you're already in over your head and it's already out of control, that goes to show how scary the Empire is to the locals of Janix, and how, especially for Lawson, how scary that is. I wonder if this will end up affecting him being able to see his wife, because that's a cool thing too, is every character has like this underlying kind of private struggle, you know? So for Lawson, it's his son isn't getting enough attention. On top of that, his wife doesn't live with them. I don't know if it's because he works, you know, a dangerous job in a dangerous area, or if it's because of maybe some sort of other previous conflict that we'll maybe find out about later. I don't think they're divorced or separated or anything, because he tells his son he wants to go with him to see her. I don't know, maybe he's going to try and, you know, serenade her, put the jukebox out front on the car and stand out in the street and serenade her. Baby, I love your way. Anyways, my coffee's kicking in, I can tell. But there's all these underlying plot points and motivations and what drives all of these characters. Juxtaposed to, you know, with Vario's trying to keep himself alive, so he's going to sell out whoever he needs to sell out. Maul dealing with multiple things here. Maul needs to handle and take care of all of the, you know, Shadow Collective members that betrayed him upon the disbandment of the Shadow Collective. And then on top of that, his ultimate goal, this has been explained to us right away, he's looking for a pupil, an apprentice, to overthrow Darth Sidious. And when I heard him say that to Rook Cast, I went, whoa, wait a minute. So we're just getting the Maul plot right out the gate. You know, now I love that they have squared that away with Devin Azara right out the gate. And that let me just say, I said this on my first impressions. I definitely want to drive it home on the Blitzcast too. I love that Devin Azara is kind of a side character right now. And I love that, you know, if this was Obi-Wan Kenobi or the Book of Boba Fett, for example, we would have had, like, you know, an episode and a half of the 2 episodes that we've gotten just dedicated to following Devin Azara around, learning her entire backstory, you know, learning how overpowered she is. And it just, you know, where's Maul? It would leave me saying. Whereas with this, we know that Devin Azara is a tool. Now you've made me more invested in Devin Azara just on the basic fact that Maul wants her as his next apprentice. She's younger, she is, you know, impressionable, she could be turned to the dark side, and we see those temptations right in her first appearance when she disobeys Eco and goes and tries to steal some fruit because she's hungry. The galaxy has changed. I will show you the galaxy for what it truly is. And I love that. I did notice that the quote's a little bit different in the series than it was in the trailers, you know. But so I'll have to memorize the actual quote from the series. But I still love that quote that he gives to Devin. It's planting the seed of doubt. And I think that as time goes on, she's going to see how futile the way of the Jedi has become under the rule of the Empire. Maybe it will take the death of Eco, her mentor, the angel on her shoulder, for her to just turn completely to the dark side and listen to Maul, who's being the devil on her shoulder. Let me make a sidebar here. To the points, everybody's saying, oh, I think this is going to be Darth Talon. I agree. I think that she will be Darth Talon. However, don't expect her at this point in the timeline to look or dress how comic book expanded universe Darth Talon did, mainly because she's referred to as a kid in the first couple episodes of Maul Shadow Lord. So let's just remember that she is younger in this point in the series. So before we go out and saying, you know, because if at the end of the series she is pronounced, you know, to be Darth Talon and she doesn't look like the expanded universe look, you know, to a T, I know people are going to start complaining. I'm just going to throw it out there, guys. That's going to be a little sus if you start saying, you know, why isn't she wearing her armored bra and G-string like she does in the comic books? Buddy, they've expressed she is a minor at this point in the timeline. So be wary of the comments that you may make. That said, I do hope that she becomes Darth Talon by name. I do hope that they bring that character into the Star Wars canon using Devin Azara. I think that it's too coincidental to me that she is a pink Twi'lek and Darth Talon is a red Twi'lek, a reddish pink Twi'lek. I think that is too much coincidence to me to not be intentional, especially when Sam Witwer and Dave Filoni are the two that are at the helm of this project. That's just where I'm at on that. Now, moving on to see, I went on a sidebar and I lost my train of thought. I was talking Devin Azara, and I was talking. Oh, dude, it's gonna eat me up. I can't. Oh, there we go. I love that this series isn't just throwing it all out in the same vein of like what I said, where I like that it's not spoon feeding things to you. I like that it's not just throwing it all out there all at once. I like that the Empire is this looming threat that no one wants to catch the attention of. Maul, because he's not ready to challenge the Empire just yet. But the police force, again, like I mentioned, they don't want to bring the oppression of the Empire to Janix, because if they do, Lawson, for example, knows the Empire's never going to leave. Obviously, a droid like Two Boots, he's not thinking about the repercussions of calling the Empire in. He's just going by the protocol and what they're supposed to do. Whereas Lawson is thinking of, the influence of what that could do. And I think selfishly, maybe he's thinking about him and his son will never be able to leave the planet. Or if his son leaves, he'll never see his son again because he won't be allowed to leave the planet. So they're trying to handle it, and I think he's being ignorant to the fact that he's in over his head. So I like that, we keep seeing in the trailers, we saw, where are they? The vintage collection. I have the vintage collection figures for, they're over there. The 11th Brother and Marok. I love that we're going to get to see those Inquisitors, and I can tell where the plot will probably end up going. There's going to come a breaking point where the Empire finds out rather than I think they're going to find out rather than get called in by the police force, or maybe the chief, whatever her name was, that came in and kind of scolded Lawson and told him, like, you need to get this figured out. If he doesn't do it, I think that maybe there will be some fear drumming up, and through that fear, he'll get blamed for, not calling in the Empire. He'll get punished probably with his life for it. And then the Inquisitors are going to start going after Maul. There also needs to be that precedent for why, when the 8th Brother is hunting Maul in Rebels on Malachor, that he, refers to him as the Shadow, and Maul generates this fear in the Inquisitors, because he needs to have the precedent as an Inquisitor killer. And I think that this is the series to do that. I think Marok is going to be the fodder for Maul here, to give him that reputation. So I think that's another point to bring up there. But I love how Maul just, again, generates this fear in people. I love that when Maul is mentioned, not even by name, when Vario and Demas meet up, that Demas, his eyes start twitching. He looks to the side. Just the idea of Maul, without even bringing up his name, brings such a deep sense of fear into him. And it literally drives him to the point where he thinks Vario is the one that committed the heist on his bank, because there's no way he could be alive. I refuse to believe it. And I love that this is the whole series. This is so Darth Maul, just to be on a complete and utter revenge tour. Trying to, first he has to eliminate the people that were not faithful to him to make a statement. Then after that, he needs to, rebuild his strength with the people that, one, stayed loyal to him, and two, the people that, if you don't want to end up like your boss and end up with your head on a platter, you need to, align yourselves with me again. Meanwhile, he's going to be training Devin Azara. Now, here's another thing I really like about Devin Azara, is you've got this multiple sequences where Maul is trying to tempt her to the dark side. And while I do think that he has successfully planted the seeds of doubt in Devon. I think that, I like that she is still very, maybe not pragmatic, but still very much in the ideals and in the mindset of a Jedi. And I also like that she knows who he is, because it would make sense, especially if Obi-Wan, was fighting Maul throughout the years of the Clone Wars, and also, excuse me, Maul in the time of the Phantom Menace being the first Sith Lord in 1,000 years to show himself, and Obi-Wan defeating him, Maul killing Qui-Gon. I think that would be a story that young Jedi would be told about, about how the legendary Obi-Wan Kenobi, as a Padawan, defeated a Sith Lord that killed his master. So I think that's definitely something, I think it's cool in the continuity. It makes total sense that a former Jedi that was, taught in the temple would know who Maul is. And I like how quick she is to reject his line of thought and to reject his temptation. Maybe even if she, maybe deep down, I think is considering it, maybe considering joining him because he could give her what she wants, which, excuse me, at this point in the timeline, what she wants is food. And I think if Maul gives her those simple things and shows her how easy it could be to betray her ideals, especially because the Jedi Order doesn't even exist anymore, I think those seeds of doubt are already planted. But I like that she's staying idealistic. That makes sense, that to not have that just go straight from, even though she's been willing to sacrifice her morals and her ideals and stealing, so she could eat. I like that she is still outwardly, even with making those little missteps, like telling Maul, like, no, you're crazy, dude. I'm not joining you. Like, I won't. But I like that Maul is kind of, giving her that freedom too, because that's the other thing, is that Iko, the Jedi Master, kind of puts her in this position where it's like, he doesn't permit her to make her own choices. It's just like, no, you can't steal. No, you can't do this. And so I like that Maul gives her the opportunity to solve her own problems. And I think it's going to, set her on a path where she's going to think that she can just solve all her own problems through, power, through the Force. And, I think that's going to be, I think it's going to really play into how she ultimately will turn to the dark side. I foresee that she will ultimately turn to the dark side. I also foresee she's ultimately going to get cut down by Darth Vader. But I seriously think that this series has done a great job so far of pacing itself well, not throwing everything at you all at once, not spoon feeding you the plot, just telling the story, and we still are centered around Maul. And there's so much else to talk about. That's how you know it's a good story, because it's centered around Maul, and Maul's just being himself. At this point, most Star Wars fans know Maul. We know what his motivations are at this point in the timeline. It's just more that we want to see it happen in front of us on screen. So I've been really, really enjoying that so far as well. Obviously, what I want to talk about too is, where I think we're going next. I like also how things have just been, the plot has just been rolling. You get, like, I love the Bad Batch, but there are points where we get a lot of people would call it filler. I almost myself call it filler. I think that what happened in the Bad Batch was necessary for the kind of story that the Bad Batch was. But I think for Maul, there's already so much that has been established. We're already in a portion of the timeline that has been explored in this new canon. And there's not a whole lot for us to dwell on and world build with. We already know where Maul's been. We need to just know how... We know where Maul is going. We need to know how Maul gets to that next stage in his life, to that appearance we see at the end of Solo: A Star Wars Story. I like that the plot is just moving itself right along. So Vario gives Maul info on the Pikes. Maul goes and handles the Pikes, and he gets, info on Krim, which I think Krim is the leader of the Pikes in the Clone Wars too. I feel like we see him in the Clone Wars, if not season 7, season 5 as well. And, I'm excited to see how quickly Maul eliminates him, because clearly the Pikes have betrayed Maul, which I totally expect. That's totally something the Pikes would do. But that must have happened after season 7, because I feel like there were 2 different times where these members of the Shadow Collective could have betrayed Maul. One would be after season 5, after Palpatine captures him and defeats him on Mandalore. The second time would be after the events of season 7 of the Clone Wars, the assumption that Maul is dead after the siege of Mandalore. So I wonder, I think for the Pikes, it had to have been after season 7, because we see Maul talking to the Pikes in season 7 in that goofy-ass arc with Ahsoka and the Martez sisters, where the Martez sisters are running from the Pikes, and they escape and get recaptured like 3 times in one episode. On, I think that's Obadiah, the Pikes' main base of operations. But yeah, that it had to have been in that short span of time. But again, the Pikes are like that. They're sneaky like that. They were like that. And that's something I will say. The Book of Boba Fett did that really well. It, kind of portraying how the Pikes are. I think they did a good job keeping that, maybe not in looks, but, at least in how they behave, at the Pike Syndicate. I think it stayed very consistent with what we first saw in the Clone Wars. And I like that Maul Shadow Lord is going to play more into, the treachery of the Pikes. And, Krim is probably going to have to pay the price for their treachery. I'm interested to see how that plays out. And then I wonder, is there anyone else on Maul's list after this? Because the other thing we have to remember is the series is only 10 episodes. And while there has been a season 2 confirmed, I wonder, if they're going to still, if before season 2 got greenlit, they, made season 1 so that it could tie a bow on itself, not in the way that the Acolyte said it was going to, and then totally just didn't. And now we're never going to get that story finished because Disney's afraid to touch anything that doesn't perform well enough for them. But I'm interested to see how this story plays out. And I'm interested to see, clearly the Pikes are a lot more, I would argue they're probably one of the most dangerous syndicates in the entire Star Wars galaxy, and they're definitely one of the most ruthless as well. So I'm interested to see, this could be very big change for the galaxy with Maul maybe being in control of the Pike Syndicate again. Who knows? Let's see. Is there anything else I want to say on the first couple episodes of Maul Shadow Lord? I'm just kind of running through everything, that happened in the first 2 episodes. I talked a lot about just the cool character designs, the dynamic between Maul and Devin, Vario, the cool, just the cool moments. But no, I think that's all I have to say. Definitely a shorter Blitzcast episode, but nothing wrong with that. But that's pretty much my thoughts on these first 2 episodes of Maul Shadow Lord. So I think for episodes, chapters 1 and 2, I think I'm at a, if I had to give it a letter grade, I would give it an A. Because it was good. It got me intrigued. It got me into the series. I have nothing bad to say. So I can't give it like a B, a C, anything lower than an A if I only have good things to say. And I just spent the last 40 minutes almost talking about it. So yeah, but let me know what you guys thought of the first couple episodes of Maul Shadow Lord. Of course, if you guys want to talk about it more, especially right when it comes out, you can check out the Maul Shadow Lord spoilers channel in the Blitz Transmissions Discord. We have a channel dedicated specifically for talking about spoiler talk for Maul Shadow Lord. I'm really excited to catch chapters 3 and 4, and I'm really stoked to continue watching the series. They've pulled me in with the first 2 chapters, and I'm hoping that the following subsequent 8 chapters keep me drawn in and keep me excited. I like that they've given us a taste with the action and a taste of the ruthlessness. Everything is like just a taste. We're just dipping our toes in to this awesome new series in the Star Wars universe. But yeah, you guys feel free to comment. If you're on YouTube or Spotify, you can comment. We can chat back and forth about what you thought about the first couple episodes of Maul Shadow Lord. And then, of course, we can also chat a little more in the Blitz Transmissions Discord. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Blitzcast. As always, check out all the links in the description below. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. 1-2, pick a target. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. Gotta hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?